and you try to reduce what you're doing to a title or a job description. And we're giving you the tools today to show you how to effectively communicate your value. And now I'm going to make you a promise, and that is that today you are going to discover how you can reimagine the work that you're doing as, instead of moving in a cycle of stress and job insecurity to where you're at the whims of an employer or somebody pushing work your way, we're going to show you how you can enter into a world of confident and highly rewarding fractional roles. And we're going to give you a defined and polished sales approach that will show you how to engage with your perfect buyer. And yes, we're going to do all of that today.
I can see that.
So to set expectations for the webinar, we're going to be talking a lot about 5 key areas, and I'm going to talk about those here in just a minute. And we want to spend just enough time to help you understand the possibilities. Mark and I have created a hybrid digital course experience that encompasses about 20 hours of training. And there's no way we're going to be able to summarize all of it in the hour and a half that we've got you with us today. So with that being said, we're going to give you a really good taste of what the possibilities and the potential is within fractional services for you. We're not going to be able to drill down into quite as much of the how-to as we would all like to have. But if we could figure out the answer to where we could give you everything you needed in 35 minutes, we'd probably be sitting on an island somewhere. Until then, we're working along with you. It is a lot of hard work in order to make something successful, but we're going to show you the proven framework that we have found to be highly effective with reaching new opportunities. Now, there's a lot of folks that when you join into a webinar, you're probably wondering, why am I here and what is it that I'm going to get out of our conversation today? So we specifically designed our webinar for new professionals that are looking to figure out what the consistent and predictable sales approach is for you to win new clients that are fractional. So we're working on getting you out of that transaction roller coaster. The second spot is if you have been delivering fractional services or consulting services that you haven't quite gotten to that consistent revenue and consistent work, and figuring out what that right balance of time is to spend on each function. It may feel a bit like you're running from one task to another because you've got clients and now you have to take care of clients, and then all of a sudden you look up and I haven't had time to prospect. So I've got a dry pipeline and now I have to go back into client development mode. We're going to talk to you about how to get off of that roller coaster. Or maybe you feel like you could be missing something in terms of in your service offering or your business model, where you may have great clients, but you don't have consistent work with them on a month-to-month basis. You don't have that cash flow consistency in building your book of business. So this is where a lot of my folks who are accountants or attorneys have a tendency to fall, because that may not have been your business model up to this point, and you want to create a thriving, sustainable business that may even make money beyond your time. So let me know, which one are you? Chime in on our poll about, are you a new fractional executive?
In the chat.
Yes, use our chat. And are you looking to just stabilize a little bit of that, looking for consistent cash flow, or are you trying to explore different business models?
We've got a couple C's, a B, a couple A's.
Okay, so we've got a good group. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty mixed.
Okay. All right then. Well, we are going to cover all of these areas today. If we had a concentration, that gives us a little bit of time to drill down into one. But do me a favor, and as questions come up, go ahead and chat them in to Mark, and that'll allow him to kind of keep track of what the questions are as they're arising, because we're going to talk about all the things today, but we do want to know if there are particular areas that you want to expand the conversation based on your own needs.
If there was a winner, A's.
Okay. All right. Now, what you can imagine is that within fractional services, in a lot of cases, it may feel like you're building a plane while you're in midair. And with that, you may not exactly have confidence in what your solution is. And then always, imposter syndrome is a very real challenge that we all face. And I understand that you want to be sure that you are selling what you can deliver. And when you're selling the unknown, even if the unknown is you and you know you get results, sometimes it can be hard to communicate what that impact is. But let me just tell you that you may believe that you can't sell fractional services or that you haven't ever been in sales before. You may be even stuck in your own head on what you incorporated or that fractional solution might even look like. But let me just share something with you. You have been in sales, and I don't care what your previous role has been or what your role is today, you are in sales. Because if you've been building and developing teams, getting people excited about working with you, if you have created processes to be more efficient as a leader, if you've gained buy-in from the people on your team, you have worked to engage stakeholders, and if you have secured commitments, guess what? Each and every one of these steps is what it looks like when you are selling. So you have been in sales. You just need to reimagine and reframe your perspective and know that with this, you can be confident in your approach to attract and engage your ideal buyer in your new service offering and deliver incredible value. Now, at the same time, you're also entitled to a consistent and predictable, lucrative income that can wildly exceed your earnings from corporate America. But we're going to illustrate one of our greatest challenges that you may face as you are getting started in building your book of business. And to do that, we're going to play a game. And the game, some of you may actually remember. Give me a show of hands if you actually remember this particular game from back in the day. It used to be, we actually had game shows instead of reality shows. And this was one that, while I didn't actually watch when it was live, I did watch a lot of reruns on Nick at Night.
I'm older than you.
Okay, so
These were first cuts.
So you got to see it live. All right. Well, the game that we're going to play is going to be a word association game. And that's what password was. And I'm going to give you a word that you have to give me the clues to guess what that word is without actually revealing the word. Now, you might imagine, based on what our conversation is up to this point, what that word is, but it is sales. So I would like for you to chime in to the chat with any clue that comes to mind that would help me guess the word sales as our password without using the word sales. So chime in. Let us know what you've got here. Tell me the best clues. Okay.
Encyclopedias.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, door to door. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. Consult. Okay. All right. Keep it coming. Come on, guys. I know it's Friday, but we're here working.
Okay. Well, those are fun. Oh, we got cold calling, used cars. There we go.
Okay.
Yacht. I want to hang out with Bill.
Okay.
We're all over this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you guys are you're gonna have some fun. Okay. So within this game, I've been playing this game to kick off my sessions for several years. And I'll tell you, some of the clues that I have gotten have been a lot of fun. I've actually had people that have said polyester wearing, insurance, ambulance chasing. I mean, there's been so many. Oh, my favorite one of all time, I think, was Herb. I don't know. That really does date us.
That is
from WKRP
in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I remember.
So there's just this perception.
Alec
Alec
Baldwin.
Baldwin. Oh my goodness. Yeah. A
Nice.
little Glenn Ross. Wasn't that his? Or no, Boiler Room. That was it. All right. So as you might imagine, some of these responses aren't probably things you get excited about associating with. Now, a few of them are positive, but a lot that may feel like, as one of my attorney clients related, skeezy.
Alec Baldwin and Glengarry.
Yeah, Glengarry, Glen Ross. Okay. So with that, you can imagine how one of your greatest challenges that you can face on your road to success in business development is your mindset about sales. And we want to help you unpack perhaps Pandora's box a little bit on this topic, because we're going to share with you key insights that are vital to your success in acquiring customers today. Because, you know, we all do love to buy. I mean, retail therapy is a real thing. Mark was telling me before we started about his next boat that he's shopping for. And I don't know, there just might be another horse that ends up in my backyard sometime in the coming months.
All you need is more horses.
I know, all I need is more horses. We love to buy, but we really hate to feel like we've been sold anything. You know, we want to feel like people are bringing solutions. So we want to shift your perception of a little bit of how you may have been approaching your clients, because I'm going to tell you, if it ever looks like you're selling something, you're probably doing it wrong. Because really, sales should be about facilitating a journey to a transformation for your clients, not about pushing, not about manipulating. There's nothing disingenuous. We want this to be an authentic journey of building incredible relationships. So now, leading into this, I'm going to share with you one of, I think, the key insights to really being able to build those relationships. And we are going to talk about 5 key areas today. We're going to talk about how the riches really are in the niches, and I'm going to give you insight on how to select that. We're going to talk about how to clarify that value proposition, engage according to the specific problems or challenges that your clients are facing. We will share with you a framework for effective delivery so that you don't run from problem to problem to problem without a consistent approach, because that's a recipe for frustration and inconsistent results. And we're going to give you that path to sustainability and consistent cash flow. So with all of these in mind, let's start with the topic of the niche that you best serve, because I think this is one that a lot of people struggle with. They approach this from the perspective of, much like when I was first starting to network, I remember hearing someone that was actually an Arbonne representative who said she works with anyone who has skin and hair. Now, the challenge when you have such a broad market is you can get really scattered and inefficient with your approach. So let me share with you a few gems that are going to help you create that compelling case for why you with a perfect buyer. And to do this, I'm actually going to illustrate my own journey into fractional services. Because when I started doing this, I was a Sandler sales coach back in 2001 to 2004. And in 2004, I woke up and recognized that when I'm selling sales training, there are a lot of people doing sales training. And I got really lost in this market of how many other people are doing it. And all you have to do is just Google sales training and you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, there are thousands of potential resources out there that you're going to be inundated with. And then they're all going to follow you around on the interwebs now because you did a Google search. So with that, I very quickly understood that if I'm going to be the best in the world, I'm going to have to work really hard to get there in being the best in the world on a general topic. So what I decided is that I wanted to get to be the best in the world on lead generation, specifically prospecting, and even more refined referral prospecting and networking. Now understand, when you drill down and you get so hyper focused on your niche, It allows you to really focus your energy on what you're going to learn and then why someone is going to want to work with you. Now, there's a concept that I learned about this time that was called the blue ocean strategy. The book came out at about 2005, 2006. If you haven't read it, it is a good networking, or it is a good book to get into, because it talks about how there are red oceans that you are in with a lot of your competition. And in a red ocean, it is competitive, it is cutthroat, and you are a commodity. And those are 3 C words that I don't want associated with my brand and what it is that I'm going to deliver. So instead, the book proposes that you look at blue oceans, where you can go out and do something different for people that they're desperately looking for your solution, and they would love to take advantage of it in a way that may not have ever been presented to them before. So my advice that I took from this is, when you go where others aren't and do what others won't, you're going to get what others don't. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is how do you practice that? And I want you to think about this from the perspective of who within that ocean is your buyer, because buyers are basically going to fall into one of 4 quadrants. And this is more about their philosophy to looking for solutions. So your first quadrant of buyers that they're going to fall into is they need your solution and they want it. They are highly engaged. They've got the means, the money, and the motivation to work with you, and they are delighted to participate in the journey to transformation. You're not having to drag them kicking and screaming. The next segment of buyers that I like to talk about are those that they need it, but they don't want it. They're resistant. So this may be when you've got ineffective leaders that are unwilling to look in the mirror, or you may have that client that needs your services as a fractional CFO, but they're not willing to either invest in the resources to be efficient and effective, or they just don't think it's that important. So, I mean, that's kind of an example of that need it, but don't want it. There are people that want it, but don't need it. So they may think it's a cool idea, but they don't have any pain or any reasons to really work with you. And then that final quadrant is the people that don't want it or need it. And believe it or not, we end up with all of those in our pipeline. And you need to have a process to be able to sift through them to get to those that need your solution and they want it. And to do that, you need to make sure that people really understand what the problems are that you solve. So we want to spend our time focusing on those that need it and want it. And when you do that, you're not limiting. That's what I really want to get across with this point, is that when you're focusing on a niche, this is not about limiting. This is about honing in to amplify and accelerate your efforts, because otherwise you're a dog on an Olympian. You're just chasing a whole lot of things, and you're going to struggle to catch a toenail, and that's just not fun. And one of the things that I discovered about this in my own journey is that when I focused in on that niche of people that need it and want it, that is where I really recognized that my biggest value came to finance, accounting, professional services, people that are highly introverted, that in order to advance in their career or attain the level of success they're looking for, they really have to learn how to sell, but they're kind of kicking and screaming along the way, but they're willing to follow direction and commit to what's necessary. And I help them recognize that selling can be the highlight of your day. And I created a process that allows me infinite potential to serve that market. And there are millions of them out there. So with that, let's dream a little bit about your solution. And if you could do one thing that you could be guaranteed of success, what would it be? So this morning, I'm giving you the magic wand. Think about me as, a Robin Williams. Give my Robin Williams voice, and I'm the genie. that's going to give you the route to success, to do whatever you want with whoever you want. And I want to hear about what you would like to deliver. So go ahead and chime in on the chat with what your dream solution would be. And while we're doing that, we're going to provide you with a couple of examples. One of my clients wanted to work 9 months out of the year and have 3 months off to go hunting and fishing. Another one wanted to work in the US 9 months and overseas, specifically in Greece. She wanted to live the ultimate laptop lifestyle. Now, another avenue that came up, and this was one of my clients that was in, she's a fractional CFO, and her story was pretty powerful because when she was 12, she was removed from her home and placed in foster care for just a lot of reasons. And she ended up with foster parents and within organizations that nurtured her and supported her to where she became the first woman in her family that had ever graduated from college and obtained professional degrees. I mean, she was a rock star. And she attributed a lot of that success to the people that supported her and helped her. So she wanted to provide a lot of incredible impact. And so she decided she was going to focus her attention on supporting nonprofits because that allowed her to amplify her impact and be able to, through her solution, she was able to help hundreds and even thousands of families have services that help them succeed and survive in some cases. So it's pretty powerful. So what would you do? Okay, so teach underprivileged and underrepresented people skills that'll help them be successful. Fantastic. All right. So I want you to really think about this question because it is important for you to understand that will help you with serving your niches. Now let's talk about, so as we're thinking about this niche and about what it is that you would actually offer within that niche, we want to talk about your value proposition of what it is that you're going to bring to the table. Because I don't know about you, there's a lot of people out there that are overwhelmed. And as we witnessed from the last month that we've all lived through, we've had the contentious election, a lot of fake news, a lot of people basically just blowing up so many things and creating a lot of stress and turmoil. And remember that our buyers are getting inundated by all of this stuff too. And they're unsure about exactly where they're going to go to achieve their goals. And just as you aren't excited about selling, they're not excited about being sold to. They're cynical. They understand that within this fake news, they don't want to make a bad decision. And I just read a recent study that talked about how there's a marketing professional that tracks everything. She discovered that her sales cycle had gone from 30 days to 45 days. And she also discovered that it had lengthened by 50% and required 3 more touch points with clients. And here you are probably trying to figure out how to win your first 5 profitable clients.
So can I ask you a question, Brendan? It used to be 22 touches. Is it now 25 touches?
It is. So it is actually, the statistics showed at the beginning of this year that it was 8 to 22 interactions with you before someone was confident in working with you. So now we are looking at 11 to 25.
There you go. Okay.
So that's what I want you to be clear is that we want to be intentional and purposeful with every interaction. And know that there is a process to win fractional business. It is applicable across the entire executive suite, and you can do it and be great at it. But you need to begin by understanding that you are not going to be all things to all the people, but you want to hone in on the one thing that matters most to your ideal buyer right now. And then construct a client experience that guides them on their desired transformation. And we are going to dive into this more as we go, because again, we're reviewing your niche, the value proposition, the impact you provide, the framework for delivery, and your path to sustainability. So up to this point, we've talked about your niche, a bit on the value proposition. Now let's really start to hone in on what that specific problem is that they're looking to solve, or that impact that they're seeking. Because our opportunities as fractional leaders today, we know that we're all in the middle of this job market that is really hard to get a handle on. We go from peaks and valleys of where business owners are hiring like crazy, and then they have to lay people off. And then they lay off too many people, or they laid off the wrong people, and now they're trying to bring people back. And then we see in the headlines how thousands upon thousands of jobs were being laid off, particularly in the finance, accounting, legal arenas, everything that's impacted or affected by AI. And unfortunately, there are a lot of the critical tasks that you just cannot turn over to technology, and you can't turn it over to that entry-level solution. And now who knows what's going to happen in the next few months as, we're dealing with the aftermath of the election that took place, and we've got a total new administration coming in. So you are really in the right place to be evaluating fractional services, because we are going to offer you a lot more stability through multiple relationships that hire you to solve a whole lot of problems than you being dependent on only one person for one paycheck that their whims may change. And you get that intuitively, which is why you're spending time with us this morning. I understand that. But you may be trying to figure out, okay, so if that's the market, what's the potential for me? And where do I even get started? And now let me actually share with you one of our client successes that she actually ended up going back to her former employer that became her first client. And I want to tell you about how she did it. So Betty was a director within a large healthcare organization that was merging with another even larger entity. And she saw the writing on the wall about duplications within her division and knew someone had to go. And she had just come off of a lot of burnout from dealing with everything in this merger. And she wanted out, but she wanted out on her terms. She didn't want to be a part of that reduction in force. So she negotiated her severance and left on great terms with the door open for her team leaders and the CIO. And now mergers do what mergers do. Staff got cut. They ended up with a lot of gaps that had them consistently missing critical deadlines and their goals. Now, she had left the door open and continued to coach the person that had been promoted up to the level of director when she left. And that person was actually someone that she hired. And she just mentored them, coached them, supported them, gave them a lot of advice. And when they recognized that things weren't happening, they worked within the new leadership team to create a role for her to serve as a fractional project lead to help them get things done on time and within budget. Now, what Betty did, right, there was a lot, but one of the key things that she did is this gave her insight into someone that she knew had a serious problem, and she gave them a clear framework to engage her and fill that gap in getting their projects done. Through this, she created a win-win solution. That's a perfect example of need and want within a client. So who needs and wants your talent? And they may look like a previous employer. And now some of these previous employers may actually have been the clients you served within a role, because there are many folks who leave consulting and now want to move into offering fractional services. And perhaps your future clients for fractional may be your previous clients for consulting. But know that a broad market makes it too difficult and too much for someone to be able to help you quickly. and it leaves you feeling overwhelmed and just paralyzed with indecision. So what connects you with your buyer is specific insight into the situations that most closely resemble theirs. They don't walk around saying, I need to hire a financial advisor. They tell their friends, how do you figure out how much to save for retirement? Or taxes are killing me. How do you manage your investment strategy so that you're not giving away 50% of what you make to the government? As Mark often says, you don't buy a drill because you want a tool. You buy a drill because you need to make a hole. So with limited time and energy, the more targeted and specific you can be with your efforts to get to what people are trying to build, the more likely you are to connect with them as your perfect prospect. But the $64,000 question is, of course, how do you get specific and focused? Now, 3 days ago, you received a worksheet via email from us. It was called Discovering Your Superpower Cheat Sheet. And you're going to want to grab that for your exercise if you made notes in it, because we're going to dive back into it. If you don't have it, Mark shared the link in the chat at the very beginning of our conversation today. So you can go snag it from there and work on it later. But if you did the work earlier, you're going to want to pull that information out, because we're going to roll up our sleeves and think for just a minute about reframing the context of how you may have perceived your opportunities before now. And unfortunately, we have a tendency to commoditize ourselves, because we get lumped into a resume structure that sounds something along the lines of, what are your capabilities? Tell me about your experience, and what is your background, and how are you qualified to help me with this? So it truly does commoditize us. And we forget that the biggest reason why people hire us, either as a permanent employee or an outside contractor, is based on they got a problem, they need someone to solve it, and they trust that you're the right person to do it. And they're after that solution for the problem. So we've got to reframe how we're approaching our clients. So our biggest questions that we have to answer is not just why someone's going to hire you, but really, what is it that they're trying to accomplish? What problem is keeping them awake at night? And what is happening in their business or in the world at large that's creating the external circumstances that are having them say, Uncle, that's it. I can't do it. It's that straw that broke the camel's back. And then look at the specific objective that they're trying to achieve. You pull all of this information together, and that communicates what your superpower really is. And it is truly about the benefit that you bring to the people that you're serving. So in previous roles, it was the value your employers experienced from having you on their team, or it could have been what was missing after you left. So now it's important for you to look back at your career experience and spend a bit of time reflecting on the impact you delivered. And you can arrive at this information by reaching out to your colleagues, your peers, former employers, or potentially even former clients. And this is going to be a big homework assignment for you. Okay, now we've discussed your niche, the superpower you bring to your perfect client to solve big problems. Let's talk about this one a little bit more, because this problem that you solve, that is a really big, deep topic. And that's why it does get its own point. Because fractional services selling 101, you want to think about repositioning and pursuing fractional work through reviewing those previous accomplishments. And some insight that's really critical for you to get, and sometimes hard to communicate, is that impact that your previous employer received within the work that you most enjoyed doing. And that information right there, that's your sweet spot. And it really doesn't have anything to do with your job functions or your job description. Now I want you to think about the entry point that makes the most sense for you to engage with that employer. This is why you were originally hired in the position. The entry point may have looked like they needed to staff up for a big project. Maybe, like Betty, they had a reduction in force and they lost a lot of their key leaders that ensured that projects got done on time and on budget. Maybe they're getting ready to go into a merger and they need financials structured to align with the new entity. In some cases, they may have just laid off a key employee or somebody retired. There can be any number of reasons, but that is what opens the door for you. And that is what's going to open your next door. So what I'd like for you to do is chime in real quickly in the chat. Let me know what key situations are happening for there to be an opportunity for you. What's going on in their life or in their business? I'm trying not to cough. Excuse me. What situations or circumstances present the best opportunity? As a fractional CFO, what it might look like is a lack of accurate and timely financial statements. Perhaps they're having a bad relationship with their bank because they're not communicating well. Those are the problems. The potential impact that they experience without you is they don't have access to funding. They don't have the required capital to operate. Or they may be even to the point of diminishing profitability that is resulting in financial stress for the owner. So that's an example of a fractional CFO. As an HR professional, it might be the lack of access to coaching and support for people on their team that's desperately needed. They may feel like they're ill-equipped to engage a millennial workforce. So we all know, though, that the impact of this is that disengaged workers are unproductive, opportunities are lost, growth is constrained, and without a people strategy, this is a very real impact. So a fractional HR lead is able to really step in and support that function happening. So taking this another step further, and this is an important topic, so we really do want to spend the time on this and think about it for your own business. We've got several folks on this call that are fractional sales leaders, and I'm very familiar with that topic because that was actually my role that I delivered when I am delivering my fractional service. So we're going to use fractional sales for our deeper dive. Now, everybody on the call that leads and has led organizations recognize that there's a significant amount of time that a great sales manager actually needs to focus on supporting the people. And in reality, more than half of their time should be devoted to that. And if a business doesn't have a sales manager, the business owner needs to do it. And business owners don't have a clue what to do with salespeople in most cases. In a lot of cases, I felt like, the sales team ends up being the redheaded stepchild of the organization, but yet nothing happens until somebody sells something. So without proper coaching, salespeople tend to be less productive. They cost companies sales and prevent them from really maximizing their potential in a market. So here's another example of how this is one thing that a fractional sales solution or a fractional chief revenue officer could be an absolute perfect opportunity to serve a great market. So what is the biggest challenge or pain that your buyer is experiencing? I do want you to take advantage of the chat right now and chime in as I'm talking, because remember we talked about the potential for networking? You've got so much potential when you align with people that are solving similar challenges, because when you start to peel the onion of exactly what the challenges are, you are in a better position to know exactly which the right direction is to take them for a solution. And within our course experience, we actually guide you through an exercise called the 5 whys. That if you've done any lean or process improvement training, you recognize that it's that root cause analysis. But what it does is that's a powerful exercise that aligns your messaging with your perfect buyer. So make sure that you are chiming in with what the challenges are or the specific problems that companies are looking to address. Because you know your messaging really aligns when your perfect buyer says, boy, you really get me. And I trust that you're the right person to help me with this. You've brought me so much value up to this point. What's next? What does it look like for us to work together? You don't have it when they lump you in with other fractional fill in the blanks and say, you're the first of the 3 that we want to talk to before we make a decision. And that fill in the blank might be, you're the first fractional CFO we've talked to, and we need to talk to a couple of more before we're confident moving forward. That's telling you that your messaging isn't quite there yet. Now, I hope you can see why this is a critical aspect of forming your fractional service. This is really deep work that leads to true relationships with your ideal buyer. So we have discussed your niche. We've talked about expanding your superpower, further defined that problem you solve. Now let's spend the time talking about the business of fractional, or how do you collaborate to create that optimal fractional solution? Because all too often we fall into the trap of the E-myth, where we feel like we have to do all the things within the business of fractional, and it's for a lot of the wrong reasons. Most of the time, we can sum it up with fear. And it looks like a mindset of scarcity rather than abundance, inability to delegate, unwillingness to take the time necessary to train and communicate with others who could be helping us with this. But let's just summarize it in the bucket of fear and call it good, because it really does, it causes you to repeat the mistakes that you've made in your career that led you out of corporate, burned out and used up. And this isn't a productive place for any of us to be. So what would it look like if you actually had a process for delivering fractional services? So let's go back to your career experience. What did you learn with time and repetition that can transfer into fractional businesses? How were you more efficient in your roles as you gained experience? So think about the very first time that you were in a leadership role and you landed in an organization. What was the first big move that you made? And I know in a lot of organizations, like we worked with one client that he had a great perspective. He'd actually come out of accounting and finance, and he was promoted to being president of a bank that was 120 years old. And the chairman of the board had been there for over 40 years. And he had just stepped out of the president's role. So when our client stepped into that leadership role, he actually spent 3 months just really getting to know people, processes, team, systems. And then once he had that understanding, that's when he started working to make the moves in order to gain buy-in, identify what their most significant challenges were, create the team. A lot of these employees had been there for decades. So there were actually a significant chunk of the team was retiring. So, I mean, when I'm describing this, I want you to be thinking about your role, because you're going to recognize that there is a lot of this that is a duplicatable process. And it looks probably something like the cycle that we have on here. It's where you engage to identify what the project is, you negotiate what their path is moving forward, set expectations with leadership for how how our route to success is going to be laid out, what resources are needed, where we begin. You then learn the team, you create your game plan, engage your key stakeholders and team members, begin to implement change based on priorities that are mutually agreed upon, develop the systems to support this, and then prepare for transition so that you place your leadership in that role, the new leaders, because ideally your engagement at some point will end. And then you can transition into being more of an external coach and supporter or guide. And in corporate America, it probably looked like you were promoted into a new role. So this is what the cycle of executive leadership looks like. And what I want you to think about is, as you're doing this role, how many of these roles can you have going simultaneously? Because I'll challenge you with, can you be doing this role for 3 companies at once, 5 companies at once? How about 10? How many can you serve at once? So I'd like for you to do some quick math and share in the chat with us about what is your capacity. And while you're thinking about this, I want you to think about the possibilities. And I'm actually going to use an example here of my good friend, Gordon. Now, Gordon is actually one of the top leadership coaches in the world, and I am honored to know him. And when Gordon was 52, he decided that it was time to run a marathon. And now Gordon had never run a marathon before, but his sister did it. So if she did it, he should be able to do it too. So this is actually him running his first marathon in Portugal. Now, Gordon had so much fun running his first marathon that he determined, I'm going to do this again. And he actually did a total of, 4 marathons in 10 weeks. Now, has anybody here run a marathon? Anybody? I haven't either. Mark's
10Ks.
Mark's giving me this look. Yeah.
Back many moons ago.
Okay. Well, running a marathon seems like it's a really big task, and Gordon did 4 in 10 days. But Gordon had his paradigm of possibility shifted when he heard about Ricardo Abad, who ran 607 marathons in 607 days. So his paradigm of possibility changed. So with that, how many can you serve? What are the possibilities for you to build a fractional solution to be able to serve 3, 5, 10, or 50 companies simultaneously? And why we are here and why we are passionate about delivering this knowledge to you is because, well, we're coming from a position of we've been drawn into fractional by a lot of circumstances in life. We recognize the possibility, and this truly is our passion. I've been a coach and trainer for consultants and offering fractional services before it was even a thing. And it's kind of funny how it's worked out over the years, but I launched my own sales leadership business in 2006. I've worked as an interim sales leader and coach for a lot of small businesses and supported sales teams when they've had gaps. Throughout the years, I've also had the privilege and honor of supporting hundreds of executives and business leaders that have launched their own businesses, consulting practices, in creating a consistent and profitable stream of referrals. At last count, I've got to tell you that this number is dated because I've had a lot of clients that have closed some massive deals. But when we last totaled everything up, my clients had closed in excess of 200 million in revenue. And I'm not making this stuff up. This is a proven path, proven process that works. So now let me talk to you about a concept that's important for you to understand. And those of you that have a marketing background, you're going to recognize that this is a marketing philosophy. But everybody else that's in here, and even my marketing professionals, I want you to go to work on your business right now, expanding your thinking about what the buyer journey is. because this is what the experience is that your buyer is living from when they first start to recognize that there's a problem. They're evaluating what other people are doing. They're hitting the Googles, trying to figure out what options are out there, talking with their peers and colleagues and mentors, connecting with you, and really trying to understand what their transformation is that is possible and how you are going to help them achieve it. So that's the buyer journey. It's the buyer side of this equation. Now, the client experience is how you are going to interact with that buyer. And it's important to understand the psychological journey that they're traveling to know how to best intersect with them and deliver the transformation. This philosophy allows you to create your client experience to be a seamless, organic, and intentional transition to becoming a client of yours. Now, you remember I shared how people hate to be sold, and that works perfectly because you dislike selling, and at least as much as it refers to how people typically view selling. So what we've done is we have designed our approach to serving fractional clients as a path to transformation. We connect, deliver value, and offer an easy, friction-free path to working with us. You need to offer the same thing to your fractional clients. And the path new fractionals take is they often wing it as they're delivering their solution. This is when you begin an engagement thinking about the problem that you're solving right now. You get their buy-in to hire you to solve that first problem. And then when the next one comes up as a consequence of that, because you know when growth happens, there's always going to be another problem, you build yourself a role as a right hand to that leader. Now, the problem is this doesn't lay a foundation for you to provide that long-term impact or transformation that they're looking for. And it certainly doesn't provide you a path to a scalable solution. You basically recreate the job that you had in corporate America, where you worked 60 to 70 hours a week and you couldn't wait to get out. You were looking for the exit door. So the lack of a structured solution is a path to selling your time for money. And that is not the path to success and sustainability. And this goes back to, we have this thought in our minds about creating structure. We have our plan that you see at the top of the slide. But oftentimes they go in and sell an ability to work half a day or so many hours and work X amount of time within that time frame. There really is no structure. There's no defined value for what the services look like. They underestimate or minimize their value when they sell time for money, and they miss out on all of the other potential opportunities to create value and income within your solution and be well paid for it. So what you need to think about is, what is your pricing solution and what needs to be, or how do you price your solution and how do you encompass the different resources that are a part of it? Because when you move from selling your time for money into bringing a comprehensive solution, now you can include subcontractors or administrative support. You can bring in processes to help be more efficient in the delivery of your solution, or systems that support the execution. Now think about it. In your previous role in corporate America, did you manage a team? And are your clients large enough to have that team internally now? Because in a lot of cases, they probably don't. And if they do have people internally, they're more than likely short-staffed, and their employees are already overwhelmed with work. They don't have the bandwidth to do even more that you would ask of them. And they're going to be quite resentful if you put more on their already overloaded plate. So you need to think about your delivery team, and you want to build out what that service offering looks like. So let's have Mark contribute what his delivery team looks like.
Well, let me roll back a little bit. When I first started doing this, I thought I had to do everything because I needed all the money. And I also thought I'll identify only issues that I need, that I service and that I'm capable of doing. Both of those have realizing that's not true has transformed my business into a team effort. I have amazing friends that do much of the work that I don't really do well. I have people doing financial analysis, writing reports, doing research, and the biggest transformation in my business is when I brought my friends in to provide a different fractional services. So if I identify an ops problem, I have friends that are great at ops or supply chain or marketing. And all of a sudden I'm providing solutions outside of my scope for my clients. And this allows me really to focus on building relationships, understanding my clients better, and ultimately doing much better, higher level, high value strategy work.
Fantastic. So in your workbook, you have a series of questions to help you ideate and think about what you would have to augment your own strategy in delivering an incredible service offering. So think about who would be on your team and what are the necessary tasks that have to be done that, quite frankly, they fit into your bucket of what you really don't want to do. So some of the things might look like research, administrative tasks. With me, it's anything related to technology. That's why I'm so blessed to have Lucas. Project management. And, you know, for example, we've even got things that we can do now leveraging AI to accomplish a lot of these. So as an attorney, there are so many different things that you can do now, such as you can review and draft contracts, review documents to create summaries, review case files, research rulings. Now, I don't encourage you to put any of your clients' confidential information into ChatGPT, but your industry has a lot of closed applications that enable you to protect the confidential nature of their information. But there are so many different ways that we have systems that support us today that we never had 10 years ago. So these tasks, if you think about it, like research, dealing with tech, all of these different things, they're critical that you have in order to do the work that you need to do within your client. But if it is a task that should be billed out at less than your desired rate, then it needs to be delivered by someone else. Mark actually has a really good example of this from fractional CFOs. Let's see, you were talking about how they spend a lot of time.
Oh, yeah. They want to be paid $300 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And then I find out they're balancing checkbooks.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why their clients aren't happy with the
bill.
With the bill.
And with the result.
And the result. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that being said, you've got some examples of tasks here. I want you to think about what your fractional solution would look like encompassing those tasks. And for this, I actually want to give you another example because I think examples are powerful, particularly with relating what it might look like for you in your industry. So let me give you an example of a fractional external GC. So my client, Pascal, used to be the in-house counsel for a large organization here called Compass Minerals. Prior to that, she worked within a little company called Sprint. But she was the right hand of the executive leadership in basically navigating all things related to managing risk within those companies. Now, her heart was in serving small businesses. And she wanted to work with organizations that were planning for mergers and wanted to successfully navigate those mergers. So what she created is 3 different levels of service offering. And as I share her examples, I would like for you to also think about what yours might look like. So as an external GC for a lot of these companies that did have legal firms that they were working with, but not a cohesive strategy, what she would do prior to the event, she would prepare for the kickoff by having the leadership team provide her with the structural or foundation documents for the organization, the operating agreement, the articles of incorporation, the buy-sell agreement, employment contracts, all of those primary documents that make up the foundation of a solid business. She'd gather all of those and do a review. The next thing that she would do is then schedule a kickoff session that was 1 day. And during that day, she would talk through what they were getting ready to work on over the next 12 to 18 months. So she was specifically looking for their big moves that they were making. So any acquisitions, any significant merger activity that was taking place, real estate acquisitions, partnership moves, things that were going to be adapting there. If there was a succession plan in place, all of that key insight was what was first covered. Then she moved into employees and discovering, okay, are there people we need to manage up, manage out? Are there people that aren't being, your employment agreements aren't accurately reflecting their value to you? So, I mean, she pulled all this information together. And as she did this, what she discovered is that there were all of these challenges that they needed to be addressed in an order of priority because it was kind of overwhelming. So then she came back 2 weeks later and put together the prioritization plan, where she brainstormed and figured out what they were going to do when in the order of priority and who it was that was going to focus on those tasks. So that was the second day. Then based on that prioritization, she then created the plan for how she was going to get them on track and keep them on track. And it involved for her, now here we move to the better. So good is strategy. Better is where we move into how she supported them on a quarterly basis in order to stay on track with their goals. Now, this model is somewhat similar to EOS, where they deliver the initial workshop and then they deliver the strategy. There's a plugin right up there, Mark. So then the third level that we have is the best. And this is what we consider our fractional solution. So this is good, which is the evaluation and strategy. And so you've got the good and the better combined. And then we're going to add the execution to this as well. So what that would look like then for Pascal is she's then coaching the leaders on an ongoing basis with accomplishing their objectives. So it's where she sits in on staff meetings, she participates in one-on-ones, and she's available for Q&A. So I want you to think about what your different levels would look like for good, better, and best. So it may be good as strategy, better as strategy plus coaching or quarterly reviews. And then the best would be strategy plus coaching plus support and project management. That would be what your fractional solution would offer. So you've got a worksheet, and I'd like for you to think about what your fractional solution would look like at the good level, the better level, and the best level, with your goal is to deliver less than 20 hours of billable work per week while maintaining at least the same income that you enjoyed in a corporate role. If not, think about what your path to scaling well beyond that might look like. And you do that through having systems, processes, and team members. And now how we can help you with constructing this. Our goal is to inspire you about all of the possibilities within a fractional service business. You're here for a reason, and we want to give you the information to consider how you can construct and create your ideal fractional service practice. Hopefully, you want to grow it and scale it to where it's well beyond selling a time for money of you product. And we want to expand your thinking into areas that you may not have considered. that will allow you to create more income, more stability, and have flexibility while you're doing this. And while we're talking about this, we also recognize that you may be a bit overwhelmed with what that path forward looks like for you. And while we'd love to share all the answers with you in the hour that we've talked about that you need, our heart is to help just like yours is. But there's a lot that can be overwhelming. And that's why we give you just enough to get you started for you to have the confidence to get in the plane with us. Let us be your co-pilot, and we're going to support you on your path to success in fractional services. Up to this point, we have talked to you about the niche that you serve, what your superpower or capability is, that value proposition that you're going to deliver, the best entry point in order to provide incredible impact, helps you reimagine your framework for delivering that fractional service so that you can have something that is duplicatable from client to client. And then thinking about what this path to sustainability would look like. We want you to be aware of all of the possibilities that exist. In 2021, Mark and I compared notes, and we saw quickly the direction that the workforce was heading. And we knew a lot of leaders that were facing burnout in corporate America. And we also recognized that emerging market of small and mid-market companies that are desperate for solutions. Our desire is to create an impact within the workforce in so many positive ways and provide win-win solutions that serve both the needs of individuals and organizations. And we've recognized the need and want or desire of small businesses to engage with fractional leaders. We provide impact by giving you a proven path and a framework to building a profitable and sustainable fractional business. This is where Freeway to Fractional was born. Within our experience, we show you the 7 key decisions that you need to make in order to form your fractional service business. From pulling together that information about your superpower, identifying, defining that perfect target buyer that you're after, defining the transformation that you'll bring to the table, clarifying your message, pricing your solution, constructing the optimal delivery framework that provides you scalability and maximum impact, and then moving into a defined launch timeline to get you on track and keep you on track to building an incredible fractional solution. In the route to revenue, we show you how to sell this. Everything from validating your idea through revenue, through how to conduct your focus group of 1 interviews, effectively communicate the value of you, give you a path to quantify the benefits of working with you, communicating that promise of transformation in a way that has your prospects saying, yes, please, I would like some of that. We give you the framework to construct your irresistible offer or strategy session, and then provide you the playbook to land and expand within those relationships. In module 3, which is now we're moving into the back half of the course, which is the structure for all of this. We teach you the nuts and bolts of business formation and introduce you to incredible launch resources that are going to help you with making those important first decisions. We show you the questions to ask to figure out whether or not you need to be a part of a group, whether you want to fly solo or you want to build an enterprise. But you make that decision based on what your desire and your goals are, not because you feel like you are not in a position to bring in your own work. We help you with the infrastructure needs and understand we are all about bootstrapping. We give you our best tips on administrative, back office resources, project management solutions, guide you through creating your staffing strategy, outline the potential in your profit plan, and then provide you with all of those incredible resources that you're going to need in order to be scalable. In module 4, this is where we share with you all of the potential for revenue. We talk about the future of fractional. We give you insight and access to resources for playbooks, subscriptions, memberships, strategic alliances, the path. There's so many endless opportunities for you in constructing the different paths to revenue. We also show you how to conduct strategic reviews. Now, all of this is designed as a hybrid digital course experience, which means in addition to the recorded modules, you're going to have access to a tech resource library. You have 6 weeks of group coaching to implement the program. We give you a peer-to-peer mentoring community to learn about what's working. You have monthly networking sessions to collaborate with other professionals. We provide you the framework to get this underway via LinkedIn. And all of this, when I've been having my market research interviews, is well beyond the value of $10,000. That's what a lot of other companies are charging for similar coaching programs. So there's a lot that we give you. But in addition to that, we recognize that you may need us well beyond the 6 weeks. And so Mark and I have an open office hours every Monday at noon in order to answer questions, provide encouragement, brainstorming to keep you underway, as well as, of course, available via email or text message. We're also pretty easy to get a hold of to be able to hop on a quick call in order to help you. So you may think that your best option is to join a group or go to somebody else that can source clients for you. And let me just tell you that taking this path has you at the mercy of someone else's goals or plans, and then you become a spoke in their wheel, or in essence, a vendor to them. When you have your own approach, you develop your own intellectual property and processes, you now have a path to constructing a legacy that transcends your time. And it allows you to scale way beyond what your personal delivery can be, and it magnifies your impact. Now, you are here today because you believe in the opportunities presented within fractional services for your career. We are here because we believe you are the future of fractional growth for small businesses. So let us invite you to have us along for the ride. Let us be your coach, your mentor, your guide. But with that, I want to tell you that our process was designed for leaders who recognize the benefits of learning through others, and they would prefer having someone show them the path rather than trying to figure it out as they go along. And while I want to tell you it's an easy journey, I can't. It is hard, but it's not as hard as the sacrifices that you have made to get to this level right now of career success. There is nothing that we're going to ask you to do that you haven't already done. And in our course, we promise that we will give you a step-by-step process that guides you through the small tasks, as well as the big shifts required to build a sustainable and profitable fractional service business. So that's who we are working for. Let me give you insight into who we don't fit. So if you're just in fractional until your 8 to 5 appears, we're not a fit for you. If you're a job hopper, as in you're just here until the money's better somewhere else, you're not going to be willing to put in the work that it's going to take for this to be successful. So we're not the right fit for you. The other group is if you're a camper, if you're doing okay now, you're happy with where you're at, and you really don't have a lot of desire to do the effort necessary, we're not a fit for you. If you have quit on yourself or you've quit on the job market, then we're not a fit for you. You've got to be willing to put in the work to create something different. And the final category is if you're always wanting to point fingers at everybody else rather than looking in the mirror for your success, then we're not a fit for you. But I don't imagine you fit any of those buckets if you've been with me to this point on the call, because you know deep down you're here because you have value to deliver in the growing fractional market, and we have a desire to show you the proven path. Now, you may not believe me now, but everything that Mark and I show you in the course, you're going to remember doing this throughout your career. We just show you how to construct this in a new environment that you're in now. It can be lonely going down this path by yourself. With us, you're always going to have a cheering section and a sounding board. The work is hard, but there's no job that's as rewarding and fulfilling as the one where you are creating your own destiny. Now, today, we have shown you the path to reduce your ramp up by 6 to 12 months, follow a proven framework, work within a peer group that can support and help you brainstorm options. And we've shown you the path where you can market without feeling like a salesperson. So the question is this of value to you? Because we are here and we would be delighted to support your journey to fractional success. The course offering that we have, I want you to be clear, is that we have 4 key modules that we cover a lot within each one of them. I've got all of the information here about exactly what it is that you will achieve. I'm going to move quickly through these. And all of this is available for $3,000. Well, $2,997.
You're starting to sound a little salesy.
I am just only, yeah. So I do also want to let you know that we do have a money back guarantee. We are going to get you through the 7 key decisions to launching your fractional service business. And if at the end of the 2 weeks, you determine that this isn't for you, it's not calling your name, all you have to do is show us that you've done the work, and we will refund your money happily. So we want you in it because you were excited about all of the possibilities within fractional. So let me ask you, what is standing in your way? Because I want to remind you of something that's very important. You've sacrificed throughout your career. You've probably put yourself and your family even behind an employer's needs. Today, we are asking you to bet on you and your ability to create something absolutely incredible. So if not now, when? And if not you, then who? Join us. We want to be a part of your success. All right. Now, let's have some Q&A.